Hi, folks. This is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord & Richards, and I'm excited to be working with folks just like you every single day together with my team to help you achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. I'd be delighted to connect with you and delighted to share with you some of the principles that we're using every day to achieve that. But in this segment, I want to talk a little bit more about the book that I've been referencing in many of our segments called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And I had the privilege of hearing Morgan just recently and was very moved by his talk as well as the principles that are in his book, which he expounded on further when we had the chance to visit. And in this segment, we're going to talk about not only how to get wealthy, but how to stay wealthy. You know, getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two different things. And to do that, I'm going to start with one of the illustrations that Morgan shares about a fellow named Jesse Livermore, born way back in 1877. But in 1877, he was living in a time when the concept of a professional stock trader was hardly even understood. Most people didn't even know how you could do that. But by age 30, he was worth the inflation-adjusted equivalent through market trading of $100 million in today's dollars. That's pretty big. By 1929, well into his career, he was known worldwide, probably one of the most famous stock traders of all time. More than a third of the market's value in that year, 1929, was wiped out in October. You remember that because we had days that were named Black Monday, Black Tuesday, Black Thursday, right? Dark days for our country and for our economy. Well, on the 29th of October, his wife, Dorothy, feared the absolute worst when she knew he would be coming home from work that day. There had already been reports of Wall Street speculators committing suicide, and she and her children greeted Jesse in tears at the door. He was confused for a moment, and then he broke the news to his family. In a stroke of genius, he had actually shorted the market. Can you believe this? In one day, he made the equivalent, hold on, of more than $3 billion. Wow. Now, I don't know if that was all genius or maybe it was luck. Morgan Housel presents the idea in his book that we tend to attribute our successes to all genius and very little of it to just the passage of events through our life. And for those of us who are Christians, to the grace and the providence of God. But here's what's interesting. After his blowout success, overflowing with confidence, he made bigger and bigger bets, bigger and bigger leverage. And by 1933, just 4 years later, he actually disappeared in depression for 2 days. They couldn't even find him. And it wasn't long after that he eventually took his own life, having lost everything. Getting money is one thing, keeping it is another. Here's some quick statistics. 40% of companies, 40% successful enough to become publicly traded, lose basically all their value over time. 40% failure. The Forbes 400 list of the richest Americans has 20% turnover every decade. A fifth of them gone off the list, not remembered anymore. Folks, getting money, making money does often require taking risk and being optimistic and putting yourself out there. That's part of it. But there's a season, right? Solomon tells us there's a season for everything. But keeping money requires the opposite. As we learned in another segment, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor in life. And whether you believe that or not, humility and the fear that what you have could be taken away is critically important to retaining what you've worked so hard to accumulate. It requires frugality, a recognition that your success isn't just because of your genius. When Michael Moritz, the billionaire head of Sequoia Capital, was asked by Charlie Rose why they had been so successful over multiple decades compared to the average venture capital firm, which is successful for maybe 5 to 10 years, he said this, "I think we've always been afraid of going out of business." I think we've always been afraid of going out. There's your business advice from one of the most successful venture capital firms. Here's the key. The ability to stick around a long time. That's the miracle of compounding, right? We learned that from Warren Buffett. Without wiping out, okay? Without making a catastrophic error is what makes the biggest difference between those who get rich and those who stay rich. And of course, as we've learned, the Bible has so much more to say about that than we're willing to give it credit for. By humility and fear of the Lord is riches, honor, and life. And don't forget, a good name is better than great riches any day. I'd rather retire or pass away or grow old poor with a good name than to have all that this world can provide and to be known as somebody who didn't care about others, to be known as somebody who put himself first before others. Well, folks, I've enjoyed talking to you today. I would enjoy talking to you further. I think now is a critical time as we're being warned of the imminence of a recession to get your affairs in order, to get a written plan. We call that at Lord & Richards a financial independence roadmap, and it starts with a simple conversation. But you know what? Some of you are getting advice from people who aren't doing this. And as the adage goes, you can't get a second opinion from the person who gave you the first. Why not pick up the phone and give us a call? Why not have a conversation today about how you can not only get wealthy, but retain that wealth and use that wealth for the remainder of your lifetime? I'd be delighted to chat.